So we will take a cube in a 1 point perspective, as we learned in one of our earlier video, and I will try to not push too hard the pencil, but we need something which is visible, maybe a little bit bigger, so it will be a little bit more visible. Since this is a Cretacolor pencil and it's a chalk pencil, it's really hard to be erased, so we need to be careful with this kind of pencils. Right? And I will start with a square, and I start with square because a square contains a circle. Yes, if you are drawing a square which has all his edges equal, then we know that we can draw a perfect circle in it, like that. Right? So that's why we are using now a nice square based cube, and we will draw it in 1 point perspective, as we learned. And we will need also to see the back of the cube, which isn't visible, but we need to imagine it, because we will need the bottom side of the cube. Right? And as we know from the first part of the cylindrical shape video, we need to have a one axis of symmetry or axis of rotation, and it's really easy to find it if we are joining the corners of the cube. And this is the point, and we do the same on the bottom part of the cube. Right? And joining these 2 points of middle, they will be the axis of rotation of our cylindrical shape. Right? So to have a little bit more flexibility and to have much more easy job, we can draw also the diagonals. And we can start to draw our elliptical shape in perspective. Right? The upper part and the bottom part. And if you did right all the construction, you will see that the bottom part of the elliptical shape is a little bit wider than the upper part, right? And that's because perspective, because of the shortenage of perspective, right? And we can draw the right, and let's see, let's work a little bit on this line so it's a little bit more visible. Right, and we have a nice cylinder. Right, so this is just a little demonstration. When you are drawing the whole cylinder, when you have a nice cylindrical shape, you don't need to draw all the time the cube, but you will see in the next drawing that is pretty good if you know about it, because this is the basic of perspective, having the cylinder, right? Okay. So, as we know, and as we learned with cubes, we know that we have a nice horizon, and the existence of the horizon is really important, because what is above horizon, those objects are those on which we are looking from beneath, and those objects which are beneath the horizon are those objects on which we are looking from above. So if we are starting with a cube, let's make a small cube, right, in 2-point perspective. And we see that those lines which are going in this direction, they are meeting in one point on the horizon, and the other part is the same, and they are meeting somewhere outside of the paper in one point on the horizon, right? And since the cube is under the horizon, we see the cube from upside, right? If we are drawing another cube above the horizon, right? Since the cube is situated above the horizon, we see the downside, the lower side of the cube. Right? The same thing happens when we are drawing cylindrical shapes. If we have a cylindrical shape which is under the horizon, right, and it has the middle axis of rotation, we see the upper side of the cylinder, right? If we have the cylinder on the upper side of the horizon, then we will see the bottom side of the cylinder. Right, and we are putting some value there so you can see that is the bottom part of the cylinder, huh? If we see the cylinder in a view when the upper side is exactly on the horizon, then we will see the upper side of the cylinder straight, right? But since the lower side is under the horizon, then the lower side we will see it as an elliptical shape. And the same thing happens when it's on the other side of the horizon, right? So if we are drawing it very sketchy, we are taking just one of these forms. So if we are taking the cylinder as a simple form and not drawing all the cylinder, just one part of the cylinder, we will see that on the edge of the horizon it's just a straight line, and beneath it starts to be elliptical, right? If we are looking from upside a little bit more, it will be wider, if you are looking from much more above, it will be much more wider, right? If you are looking a little bit more above, it will be much more wider, and if we are looking at it exactly from top, then it will be a perfect circle. And the same happens over the horizon, on the top of the horizon, on the other side of the horizon. The same thing happens when you are starting to watch something from beneath. It starts to take a nice elliptical shape, and as more you are rotating it, as wider will be, until you get exactly on the beneath of the object, and you will see the object like a circle. Right? So I will write here horizon. Right? So anytime you are starting to draw a cylinder, you can start to draw just a square or a rectangle, and you just need to be careful that the rectangle or the square should have the same wideness and same height than your cylindrical object. Right? And all the time you should have the middle axis drawn. The middle axis will show yourself that you have a symmetry, which means that those parts which are on left side need to be the same wideness than the left side, right? And this is a bottle, and you can start drawing the ellipses. That's how we draw a perfectly symmetrical shape. Right? I hope that it was useful to you, and see you next time. Wish you all the best.